Deciding to get an MFA is a very special gift that you're going to give yourself, and you're only going to do it once. I think most people who do apply for MFAs kind of know in themselves that they're ready for it, that it's something they want to do right now. I've taught grad students for over 30 years and run an MFA printmaking program for at least 15 years, meeting with applicants. Things I tell them, the portfolio is extremely important. So when the selection committee looks at the work, most people are going to look primarily at the portfolio. It's very, very important to use that opportunity within those 20 slides to represent exactly where you are right now. Your actual concerns, things that you're interested in, what you might want to do within the program. I always advise people to use those first 10 slides to really show that individual body of work that could be developed. People ask me a lot about those other slides. Can they show things that are more backup or things that show different skills? And I think in the slides 10 to 20 is the chance to show your range and to actually show some of the background that you might have. But it's very important to arrange them in such a way that those first 10 slides represent you as a person. The other thing I often talk about is just the idea of your essay, because people are very confused about that sometimes because the questions often aren't very specific.
I feel like people underestimate the importance of the statement.
One thing I like to tell people when they're considering an essay is, what do you want a person to know about your work and you can't be in the room? How are you going to give them the insight that they need, that special something that will help them just to look beyond the surface and really understand where you're going, what you're thinking about, what you care about? Those things are very important to try to bring across in an essay. Don't bother to say you want to go to the school because there's so many fantastic people there. Don't waste any time with stuff like that. Put yourself in the position of the committee and how can you help them to get your work, because it can make all the difference.
What do you think is the biggest mistake that people make on the statement?
Being too general, absolutely not addressing their work, their intentions, their desires. I think if you're applying to a discipline-based program, it's very important to write about why you want to be in that particular program. So if you're doing a statement and you're applying to ceramics and you never mention ceramics,
That's a problem.
It's a problem, but it happens all the time.
It does?
Yes, it really does. I've seen so many statements for printmaking that don't address printmaking. And I've seen statements where a person who has not had a lot of opportunity to use presses or shops, but who is drawn to printmaking because of the graphic qualities of the work, who's actually been able to make an argument for being a printmaker, even though it's not abundantly represented in the portfolio. Like, it turned the whole thing around. Because you look at the portfolio and say, this is a good artist, and he or she has some real graphic skills, but is it printmaking? Then you read the statement and you understand, oh, I think at least one or two people on the committee have to be going through the statements, trying to understand more about the full person.
How much technical expertise do people need to prove? So if you're looking at applicants for a printmaking program, do they have to prove to you in the portfolio that they are a master printer, or do you not?
I really like to see a person who has really shown dedication to at least one technique, who's absolutely shown the patience and the intensity to take something on and to really explore it in depth. It's always amazing to get somebody who can do everything and all of that sort of thing. I know that for discipline-based programs, people have to demonstrate that they want that, otherwise they'll be unhappy.
Let's say you're an artist and you definitely want the MFA. You know that's a goal you want to fulfill at some point, but the thing is, how do you know when's the right time? Because I took 4 years off and I was really ready in my head. I wanted to go. But in retrospect, my portfolio really could have used a couple more years. And so how can you get any perspective on the timing?
That's a very hard question. It's so coordinated with everything that people are going through in their lives. I know for many international students, the best time is right after senior year because of visas. I totally respect that. If it's possible, I hope that a student has had enough time out of school so the vast majority of the portfolio has been done outside of the undergraduate setting. If you're able to produce that work outside of the academic setting, you've actually made a kind of commitment to it. And then once you've made that commitment and you're challenged within the graduate school setting, you have the kind of strength to make your mind up about whether you want to accept the criticism or whether the criticism doesn't necessarily apply to you. That's probably my rule of thumb, but I would never make a blanket statement. I think it can be wonderful for people to have a life experience that was outside of art and to maybe work in a community print shop for a few years and develop that portfolio and really bring all that richness to a program.
Well, and I think sometimes people underestimate that their life experiences are so much a part of themselves as an artist.
It's really important to look at the truly relevant aspects of life experience that fed the work rather than necessarily using the statement to relate the portfolio to a kind of autobiographical narrative. And I think the other thing that can be very important is selecting your recommenders. They have to be people who do know you well, but they also have to be people who are within the art sphere. Sometimes I see people have letters of recommendations from very nice people who they know, who aren't in art and don't know them as artists, and that's kind of a wasted opportunity. It's really important maybe to have a studio visit with somebody who you know who's involved with art in your community, who maybe you could then ask for a letter of recommendation or something like that if you're really kind of straining for that. And you definitely need something with a slightly more academic aspect too, that there has to be at least one teacher who can address your ability to work within the academic setting.